And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wartburg and Fusion Entertainment Review. It's episode number 14, a little later than usual, but we'll get into why in a second. I am your host, Thomas, aka MrWartburg. Alongside me, as always, and I'm on the wrong scene. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
That'd be, oh, man, I really screwed this up. Man, we're off to a great start. There we go. He's back. We're on the right scene. Everything's good. All right. That's Mr. Fusion. I just blew him up, so now you can see him.
I'm here, guys. I'm here. I promise.
Sorry, audio listeners. On the OBS side, I really screwed the pooch there. I was on the wrong scene, and it looked terrible. It was the old one before we even had a logo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not great. So, yeah, it's episode 14. We're, like I said, we are a little later than normal. That would be due to a number of reasons. Number one, the first weekend we were going to record, I had a really bad Crohn's weekend. Not great. I didn't feel super fun. And then the weekend after, Fusion got his second COVID vaccine.
Yeah, and I thought I was going to die from it, man. I'm not kidding. Like, I was good day 1, day 2, day 3. I'm like, all right, just a little bit of soreness, you know, a little fatigue, nothing too much to worry about. And then day 4, I just broke out in this massive rash. And day 5, I woke up, I was just the living rash. I was just a body of rash, and it sucked for 3 days. And I stayed in bed for 3 days. But you know, after that, I was fine. So yeah. Which is weird because that was my second shot. And I've been reading that the rash happens with the first shot. So I don't know what that was about, but I'm alive.
I'm glad you are. You know, I didn't want to have to find another co-host.
Yeah.
You know,
all that work you would
priorities.
have to do.
But yeah, so now we're here. It's been a month, give or take, since the last recording. That was right after the Snyder Cut dropped. So we're already most of the way through Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is nuts. And 6 episodes into Invincible. And a couple big movies have come out. So we've got a lot to talk about.
It's been a busy month, not gonna lie.
So in that month, Fusion, like, just to go back to what we used to do, like, what have you been up to? What have you been, anything like been catching your eye beyond the Falcon Winter Soldier, Invincible, you know, mainstream stuff?
Well, you know me, I like to go back and watch sneak in some old stuff from time to time. And you know, as a kid that grew up in the '80s, I went back and watched the 2005 Lords of Dogtown movie. I think it was a really good movie. Heath Ledger was phenomenal in that movie. This was just a couple years before The Dark Knight, and it's, if you don't know what it is, basically in the mid '70s, skateboarding took off because they used polyurethane. They moved over from like these hard plastic wheels on skateboards to polyurethane, which made them very similar to like surfing on, like basically like surfing. And so a lot of these skaters out in Venice Beach, it was dubbed Dogtown because back then it was such a poor area of California. A lot of these surfer guys, they basically got into skateboarding, and there was an explosion. And it talks about the lives of like several guys, Stacy Peralta, Tony Alba, and I forget his other name, something Adams, I forget his name now. But anyway, it talks about their life going from just these kids in high school to becoming these, you know, world-renowned skateboarders because it was an explosion of it, and leading into the '80s, how, you know, just by that point, before Tony Hawk showed up on the scene in the early '80s, just it talks about that, and it's a you know, that it's a fictional retelling of it. If you ever really want to go watch it, it's a good movie. But there is another one called Dogtown and Z-Boys, which is kind of a documentary with a lot of footage that was taped by some of the guys that ran the Zephyr Skateboard Company. Really good film. I mean, it's a good documentary. It talks about the times, and then Lords of Dogtown. It's a good movie. Very, very underrated one when I really think about it. Like, you don't really hear too much about that one, but it was a really big time in America because just a lot was going on in the '70s. We were moving over from the '70s into the '80s, the whole hippie culture into what was coming into the '80s, and all the while over there in you know, California Surfside, you had this culture that was developing post hippie, where it was kind of a rebellion. The punk rock scene was kind of making its way, and part of that was a skateboard culture, which ended up becoming huge in the '80s. So, yeah, it's just a good movie. Really, I sat down and watched it. And I was like, you know what, man, I totally forgot how good this movie is. I highly recommend it. Yeah,
I'll have to check. I'll put it on the list. I know I've heard of it, but I'll have to check it out. For me, the big thing that I've done, of course, a little more gaming, but I'll get into that in a second because I actually want to talk specifically about how I'm gaming later on in a little bit. But one of the things I've been watching content-wise, it blew me away. It's a show that completely 100% lived up to the hype, and that is Ted Lasso.
Okay, yeah.
I finally buckled down and got the Apple TV free subscription. And I'm paying for the 1 month because my parents hadn't finished the season yet because I let them use my login. I know it was good when my dad texts me and asks, it got renewed, right? Because I'm going to be mad if it didn't. So that's how you know it's good. My dad does not watch new stuff. And I also got him into Resident Alien, and he's been bugging me to finish it. So I got to do that.
Such a good show.
I got to do that. I know it's going to be amazing because, I mean, if my dad thinks it's hilarious, it's probably actually kind of funny. I don't know if it'll be entirely my sense of humor all the way, but his humor and style kind of shaped what I became as a nerd because he was a Star Wars Indiana Jones guy, and that's what shaped me as a kid because he had those movies. But yeah, so I was watching Ted Lasso. So it's basically like a 2020 Major League for soccer, but way better. Like, meaning the 80s tropes aren't a thing, you know? Like, outside of a couple characters, everyone's actually kind of good. Like, and they're just made better because Ted Lasso is, like, perfect. Like, not in terms of always making the right call, but just, like, inspires them to be better. Like, that, it's such a heartwarming but mature kind of story. Like, the humor does not hold back. Like, it is definitely an R-rated show just for the actual humor and the jokes, but nothing like obscene. Like, it's mature without being edgy. If you kind of maybe get my tone, like what I mean there.
It's like a slightly toned down in terms of like language, Eastbound Down, right? Pretty
I can see that comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like what I really loved
less
about
ostentatious, no Danny McBride-isms going on.
Yeah, with Danny McBride, just the language is because it's rated R. He just goes off as the character, just goes off. But there are times where it's just in excess. But then there's like the Ashley Schaefer / Ric Flair scenes with Will Ferrell and Craig Robinson that you could tell like you don't have to swear every other line to make it funny. And so I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch Ted. I've seen the previews for it, and Jason Sudeikis is funny, so I'm like thinking about.
I made the mistake of watching it starting at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. That was really stupid because I stayed up until 2:30 in the morning, and I finished that fucking first season. It was awesome, like
so
straight
you watched
up
it all
amazing.
the way through, and you're like, I gotta go to work in like an hour.
Yeah, I tweeted at 3 a.m. This was a mistake. And it was totally worth it. It was awesome. I cannot.
I did that with the first season of Stranger Things. My wife, like, I missed it the first week when it was such a phenomenon, and my wife kept telling me, "You gotta watch it," because she watched it, and I was gaming all weekend. The first weekend it came out, and so the next weekend I'm like, "I'm gonna watch something." She's like, "You need to watch Stranger Things. This is you, 80s kids that love the nerd culture, everything about it, and all the cut takebacks and all that stuff. You'll love it." I sat down at like 8 o'clock at night, I think it was, and come like 5 in the morning. I'm like, oh, shit, I gotta be at work in an hour. All right.
Yeah, like
it's worth it.
It is when when a show like that just hooks you in. That's why I love doing podcasts and stuff like this, because we get to talk about how that, like makes us feel like that's awesome. Like I love that side of entertainment, whether it be games, whether it be like actual like literature or comic books or, TV shows, movies, you name it. There's so much awesome, cool shit out there. I fucking love that. And Ted Lasso is one of those things. And I cannot wait for season 2. And that's one of those other things. It's one of those ones where you kind of see where the story's going in terms of it's a sports story, so you know the beats if you're familiar with the genre. But they don't just execute. They just fucking destroy your expectations. Like, they just knock it out of the park. It's literally perfect. The entire season was a 10. Every episode.
So this is on Apple TV. Am I able to still buy it on Amazon, or is Apple not allowing that?
I don't actually know. Now, the good news is Apple TV is only $5.
Sure.
So a month, or the free trial if you've never done it, $5 is cheaper than buying the season. If you don't want to actually own it in perpetuity, if you just wanted to like rent an episode or something. I think it is the full 10 episodes too, which is a rarer thing in cable now, like in the premier like network, these streaming services. Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting week to week content again.
You're getting week to week, but it's also like Lasso was released week to week, but they're also shortening. Like WandaVision was only 8 episodes and 22 minutes at that, and then it lengthened a little at the end. Falcon Winter Soldier, only 6. I don't know how long Invincible is running, but I remember it's going to be a longer season. Like, it's going to be closer to, like, that CW running 16 episode season mark.
Yeah.
Which I actually really like. I really like how they've done that in a few of their stories and shows like Legends of Tomorrow. And I'm glad it's showing up in like other places are doing something similar. Not that it was unique to them itself, but that's just cool. So yeah, I recommend Ted Lasso, and I have a stinger for the end, mostly because it just popped into my brain when I saw it on Twitter. Another thing to watch. So that's what we've been up to, kind of a glance into that, in case you're watching this for the first time. So before we go any further, I want to go backwards in time.
Sure.
And talk about something that came out halfway between our last recording. Like I said, it has been a month. And that is Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay.
The Fusion. Did you watch it?
I watched it. I think we both, when we saw that big trailer that came out a couple months
trailer
before,
was hype as fuck.
We were like, let's do this. And when I sat down about 45 minutes in, I'm like, we are doing this. Okay. It wasn't painful, but it wasn't great. It was just just the kaiju fight. What more can I say? Kaiju's fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's really it. The plot was stupid. I think we have a problem with these epic movies, like with Transformers and with these kaiju movies and with Kong, where I think there has to be a balance with people, but I don't think the studios really know where to find the right balance. We get a little too much people and not enough of the main characters. Especially with that Bryan Cranston Godzilla. I mean, I know a lot of people liked it. I didn't like it. I thought it was
just more logistics, though. Like, he couldn't stick around. Like, he wanted to, but he was in the middle of doing Breaking Bad and a bunch of other projects. They just couldn't keep him around for the rest of the shoot. That was the real problem with Cranston, because, man, he fucking brought it for the first third of that movie.
Yeah. But I think they have a real big problem with not finding a good balance with the characters, and this was a perfect example of that. But just the plot itself was just kind of dumb and numb, and it's just a smash 'em up movie, but it was okay. I wasn't like blown away by it, but it wasn't awful. No, it wasn't awful, but was it good? It was all right.
Yeah, like, to your point about finding the balance, to me, and this is also a legendary IP, Pacific Rim did, because Guillermo del Toro just fucking lives this kind of content.
Yeah, like, no, that first Pacific Rim was a good movie.
Yeah,
it was
then you talk at like his Hellboy stuff and balancing like the monsters with like the human side and like the BRPD. The dude just gets this genre. Like, it's like breathing to him.
Yep.
And not every director, while they like want to tell that kind of story, not everybody's Guillermo del Toro. I mean, that's why he's a name, is because he gets it that well. Like, he is that dream director for projects like this, because he just fucking gets it. And Pacific Rim was not a dark movie. Like, it was funny. It had a lot of jokes. You got freaking Charlie Day in there being crazy.
Yep.
But they still found the balance between heart, humor, and dope fucking kaiju fights. Like, you have to have all three of those things if you're going to go full anime, which is basically what this movie is. Full anime Kong versus Godzilla. Like, they're going through fucking portals into the hollow earth. Kong's flipping upside down in zero gravity. Godzilla's shooting a beam into the hollow earth from fucking Hong Kong.
Yep.
And then Kong gets his ass kicked a couple times. And then gets... By the way, they did have one bit of awesome, like, human heart connection. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But then he uses a skyscraper to pop his shoulder back into alignment to go kick more ass. Fucking amazing shot. That whole bit was fantastic. And it was actually in daylight, which is crazy. So it actually looked good. Which, like, there was never a moment where I was like, oh, that didn't actually look good. There's a couple, but I wonder how much, like, things changed or whatever. But when, like, I just didn't like how they changed Godzilla's movement to be a little more anthropomorphic. A little more, less big-ass giant dinosaur, more lizard. Which isn't necessarily wrong, because he is a lizard. But it was just different than the prior two movies he'd been in.
Sure, yeah.
And this is a canon, that same character, so not a fan of how they changed it. But with that Godzilla, who was a walking nuke, I don't know how he beats Kong, so I get why they changed, or how Kong beats him. So I don't know. I get why they changed him, is what I'm saying. It just kind of stuck out to me. But I had a shitload of fun with this movie. Holy fuck.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, I'm not, like I said, it's not a bad movie.
It's not perfect. It's not even good. But I would say it's analogous to Aquaman for me. Like, not bad, not good, not bad. and not in a so bad it's good way, but interesting. It's just fucking fun. Like if you can't turn your brain off, if you can't as an entertainment watcher turn your brain off, it's not for you. And that's not
Yeah.
a bad thing that you can't do that. It's not a judgment like you're being elitist or snotty or whatever. Like it's just how people consume media. If you can't turn that part of your brain off, don't watch this because you'll hate it. It's not worth your
Well,
time.
you point that out in for the most part, when it comes to sci-fi, you have to turn your brain off because
Yeah.
so much of it is illogical. Like okay, as an example, and I bring this up to a buddy of mine who's a huge Iron Man fan, like mega Iron Man fan, and I'm like, okay, well, the guy flies beyond he breaks the sound barrier in the costume. You do realize pure physics, he would liquefy his skeleton doing that, right? That's like it's not physics. It's based on our concepts of physics and science. It's not humanly possible for
Yeah.
someone
He would need
to
to
break the
invent
sound
Star
barrier.
Trek and inertial dampeners.
It's inertial dampeners, exactly. And so, like, for him to do that, and then in that first Iron Man movie where he breaks the sound barrier and he just flies across the world in 10 minutes, like, yeah, he would crush his spine because that's why in the military, in the movies they have these guys ejecting planes like ad nauseum, like, oh, I'm ejecting planes. You do know that it shrinks a spine for a soldier to eject. That's why they don't like to do that. They don't like to like to manually eject from planes all the time because it can crush and compact their spine at a massive rate and shrinks them basically. So that's why it's like something that normally doesn't happen. It's not a common thing, but the movies have us programmed that way. And it's the same thing with superhero movies. So, but you just have to kind of turn that off a little bit. A whole suspension of disbelief
Mm.
is important for these things, and there are times where you say, yeah, that's just it's not illogical. It's just it's not good storytelling. That's the thing. Like that's the part where I'm like, yeah, this isn't
Yeah.
good storytelling.
Like
But it wasn't a bad movie. I just think that I think somewhere along the way they just thought, fuck it, let's do Godzilla versus Kong and let's try to make it right. And it looks like they tried to, but I think they got a little caught up on the subplot of the whole thing with the Hollow Earth and all that. It just
yeah,
wasn't,
that was a
and
bit
I wasn't into
much.
that. Yeah.
I did appreciate how fast it moved, and like I wanted to point on the deaf girl, who actually is a deaf actress, which was
Yes.
a nice touch. That her connection with Kong, it was basically a Kong sequel, not a Godzilla movie. He's like a
Yeah.
tertiary or secondary antagonist, and then kind of also a reluctant ally. Their connection, the girl and him, just stellar. Like that, they could have been just a Kong movie. We didn't even need Godzilla. It would have been just that, and Kong's fighting something else. It'd have been awesome anyway because that
If he'd
connection
been
was great.
fighting like, he'd been fighting Mecha Godzilla, that would've been cool, you know?
Yeah,
I thought that would've been fine.
and actually seeing Mechagodzilla though, oh my god,
Yeah,
my nerd heart was happy. It was awesome.
finer.
It was fantastic. But again, not a particularly good movie, but man, it put a big smile on my face. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
But we have to have movies like that. We have to have
Hmm.
movies like that are
Exactly.
batched in with all of these epic blockbusters
Not
that,
everything can be Zack Snyder Darkfest all the time. Sometimes you just want to, watch monsters beat the shit out of each other while like rap rock music is playing. Like,
exactly.
go for it. Okay, so moving on to some more current stuff. Let's talk about what do you want to do? You want to do Invincible or Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Let's go Invincible because I think with Falcon and Winter Soldier, there may be a little bit more controversial takes on that one.
Exactly. And in fact, my
Yeah.
initial title for this episode is The Problem with Falcon and Winter Soldier. So,
And I'm okay with that title. I think that'd be a damn good title for this
okay.
episode.
So we're going to
But
start. Yeah. So we're going to move
I'm
on.
all about Invincible. Go for it.
We're going to move on to Invincible, which is now 6 episodes in over on Amazon Prime. I've
Yeah.
watched all 6. I watched last night. I want to say it drops like at midnight GMT. So like I see it at like 7 o'clock at night, which is
Okay.
really nice for me because I can see it without losing time on a Friday.
Sure.
So Fusion, are you caught up through all 6?
Yeah, I'm caught up 100% of the way through. I think I was the first one to watch it in our little circle, and then you jumped in like either later that day or the next morning, and then
Yeah,
like
like
Chris and was like, "Holy shit,
it's
guys!
amazing. Yeah.
We're right. Like, watch these first two episodes of Invincible, and then the third one had dropped like the next day, and we're like, oh man, this is serious business." So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. So as the actual Invincible reader, someone who is familiar with the actual original source
sure.
material, what has been your take thus far through the 6 episodes?
I really like it. The one thing about the comic that I think people, if you really want to jump in and read what 150, 148, 49 issues, I think it's
It's up
100
there.
somewhere, it's 140 plus issues. that the story takes place over 16 years, roughly 16 years. Um, it's really well told. There were a lot of elements from the comic that I was wondering, were they going to go there? Episode 1, they went there a lot sooner at the end of episode 1, which was the big. We're spoiling. We're
Oh
okay
yeah,
with
full
spoiling.
spoilers by the way.
Okay.
Full
When
spoilers.
Omni-Man just totally lays waste to the Guardians, in episode 1, it was funny because when I watched this show and I was like, "Okay, this is on Amazon," but it felt like a PG broadcast. Like, okay, they're PGing the shit out of this show. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, he just got gory. They got gory as fuck at the end when he just like destroys the Guardians, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Okay, that actually happens a little later in the comics. You learn about the Viltrumite. Is Viltrumite? Viltrumite. I
Viltrumite,
can't.
yeah.
Viltrumite. You learn about him being a Viltrumite before the Guardian thing happens, but then you learn the true story behind what his real cause is and what his real goal is, Omni Man. And you'll learn about that if you haven't watched the show. You'll learn about that in the next 4 or 5 episodes. We're going to find out about what's really going on with Omni Man and his backstory. But I will tell you, it's very true. It's very close to the comics, which is great because that's what the first season of The Walking Dead was. Very close to it, except for the fact that Shane got the shit kill out of him, very early on in the comic, compared to what happened in compared to what happened in the TV show, how he had to die in season 2 or 3, I think it was, when they were on the farm. So Kirkman's involved with both the TV, and he wrote the comics, of course. But it's very similar. The comic is very similar to The Walking Dead in that once it got farther along, it kind of lost its way until the last 20 or so issues of the comic. And this is kind of the same thing with The Walking Dead. That was a comic that was really good for the first 100 issues, and then it just went to shit. And I'll spoil that for everybody. Issue 100 is where Negan kills Glenn, and I just thought that was really I thought it was stupid, like the storytelling right there. It was Kirkman in the comic trying to do his best to be controversial, and he goes back and he's admitted it since. He's like, if with hindsight, I wouldn't have killed Glenn in issue 100. Like, I thought he was becoming such an important character in the comic, and him and Maggie's relationship would have been really good, in the city that they Alexandria. And I realized I wasted a really solid character, and I thought it jumped a shark after that, and it just went downhill. And there was kind of a bit of that with the comic with Invincible. Probably around 120-ish, it gets a little convoluted, the plot, but then it bounces back at the end. I'm hoping that they kind of avoid that whole stretch because this is a really good story. It's a good superhero story, but it's about the struggle of being a superhero, especially as a boy, finding out his whole origin and his dad's origin and the conflict that ensues because of that. And at least we got Alan the Alien very early on too. I was very happy
Yeah.
we got him early.
Yeah, that was fun.
When he shows up on the moon, I was like, "Oh shit, we're going there already! All right." And we're doing the Mars thing or this early on. Okay, I'm cool with this. I liked and I love the pace of the show. I really do. But for someone that really enjoyed the comic, I will tell you it's a good 1-to-1. The timeline is a little off here and there. So if you read the comic, you're probably gonna be like, "Wait, when is this gonna happen?" Or "Wait, am I spoiling myself?" So maybe I recommend after the season's over, we're going back and reading the comic if you have the time. Yeah.
Yep. I was actually watching the Kind of Funny podcast when Kirkman was on very recently. I want to say it was 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And he said he was treating writing the show kind of like a second pass because this was, I want to say was this before Walking Dead? Or it was like right around the same time. Like they were within like a year of each other when they first dropped.
They were very close. Yeah, very
so
close.
he said, I was a younger writer and I didn't like know where to go with some of the stuff I put on the paper in the initial runs.
Yeah.
So this is his like second pass to like tighten things up, change the order of things, maybe, but the core bits will mostly stay the same, but it's just more, it's why you're not going to see everything happen the exact same, even though you'll see some direct adaptations, kind of like the Omni-Man versus Guardians fight, but in a different way, in a different light. Yeah. And I really like that. And I like when creators do that. Like it's Greg Rucka did the Old Guard. He said the big change they made in the Old Guard movie was that Charlize Theron's character Andromeda does lose her power. In the original run, she doesn't. He's like, if I'd have seen that on the page, if I'd have just even thought of that back in the day, it'd have been in the comic because it's a great choice. So they did it for the movie. So I appreciate when creators are not getting like so precious with what they did that they're able to change and adapt it for the new medium and to also bring in their lessons they've learned as creators. Because I mean, he wrote this thing like almost 20 years ago.
Yep.
You know, so like that's nuts. And he was like, "Yeah, I've learned a lot as a writer, so I would want to bring that to writing these characters again," which I
I
appreciate.
think also being an EP, the executive producer on Walking Dead,
Yeah.
I think that that's helped him a lot too. I really think that he got to see how Hollywood fleshes out a story, and I think that's really helped him. So when he approached the writing for the TV show, it does feel tighter. It does feel tighter. It doesn't feel like a loose, like someone that is a little younger that's a little lost in their storytelling and they can kind of just go on little tangents, which does happen. And I'm not gonna lie, it does happen in the comics. This seems like boom, we have this structured story and we're sticking into that lane, which I like. I do.
And for me, like, I appreciate the pace that they're going, but that they're not just like throwing out references. Like I would say, like early Arrowverse just threw out references.
Oh
They
yeah.
didn't give a fuck. They were throwing out references. I couldn't tell you how many times they referenced Hal Jordan and never fucking got there, or like Bruce Wayne or Ted Kord. They never went there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kirkman knows where the story is going, so he's able to throw out lines like the Martian or whatever who moves the flag at the end of the episode, right? Like
Yep.
he knows where it's all going, so he doesn't have to circle back and set something up. He can just put it in there, give it its due weight when it happens, and then move the fuck on.
Yeah.
Which I really like. And then when it comes back, it's going to be perfect because it's all been set up in a really tight and quick way, but in a way that makes sense. And you just kind of, oh, I get it. Yep, they're going to bring that back. That's definitely a thing they're not going to forget. And I really appreciate that kind of, like that attention to detail in like future planning, which I really dig. So that's where we're at through episode 6. What would you say is your favorite episode so far?
I would say the Mars episode. I found that hilarious.
Damn
Just
good.
it was so good. While that's going on, you have Robot that you're wondering what his whole plot is going on with the cloning twins. There's this, and we're finding out in episode 6 at this point that he's cloning someone, and who is it? You have so many questions about that, right? But yeah, I really liked the Mars episode just because it just showed how, like, with Mark Grayson's character, he's so carefree, and you forget that he is still such a kid, but yet he's just suddenly finds himself just sitting on a rocket ship to fucking Mars.
Yeah, he tries to take a bite out of the sandwich and it's rock solid.
The sandwich.
Yeah.
And then they land, and then they meet the Martians, the Martian people, the subterranean Martians, and they ended up learning, like, oh, there's a whole backstory to that, guys, that you'll find out later on. Hopefully, it probably won't be a season 1 thing. I think it'll be a season 2 thing with the Martians and Omni-Man. But yeah, that was probably my favorite episode, the Martian episode.
Yep. I really am hard pressed to pick a favorite, but like the one that sticks out to me because it's what I just watched was episode 6, and like, shit, that got dark. Like not just in a gory, edgelord way, like in a like the whole intro scene where the guy gets like his arm replaced and he sees it and he freaks the fuck out, like, and then they get even darker, like when he kills himself, and then it's the boyfriend later on. Holy fuck. This show does not pull punches.
It was very Monster of the Week from X-Files, right? It's what it felt like. Like they're on this casual trip, and all of a sudden they meet this serial killer that just mauls them in and turns them into robots. And yeah, I thought that was a really good thing. I really like the cast, the voice acting cast. I think my only biggest complaint would be I don't like the dynamic, and it's similar to the comics, but not so much, is his relationship to his girlfriend, and the whole, she doesn't know who he is, so she's always pissed at him. I've been there with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I'm kind of over that whole subplot thing.
I think they're trying to condense. I've spoiled myself on where a lot of it goes, so
sure.
I think they're condensing that a lot.
Okay.
To move on to who comes next.
Yes.
Spoiler alert: he doesn't end up with Amber.
Nope.
So they're condensing that to kind of be the season 1 arc.
Okay, that's fair.
I think, and then, of course, give the implication and foreshadowing that who he's actually wanting, and then that happens, and they continue that relationship season 2 on. So I imagine that kind of, and plus, like, they're in high school, like, drama is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
not understanding like other people's perspectives and just focusing
Sure.
all on your own shit.
Sure.
You know, not totally out of left field. Not to put too fine a point on it.
Yeah, you know, it's got that teen drama, but it is an adult. It's still an adult
Yeah.
animated show at the same
Also,
time. Yeah.
got to give a shout out to your boy Clancy Brown.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit, Demon Detective. Oh, fuck yeah! Just
Isn't it
perfect
great?
casting, perfection.
Yeah.
And seeing how they animated him, Netflix, this animation style, Hellboy, fucking go.
Yeah. Right.
And get Ron Perlman back. Just saying.
I mean, it works.
Do
I
it
mean,
as an animated show.
I think we talked about this.
You threw $450 million at Ryan Johnson for the Knives Out sequels. Go get Guillermo del Toro, bring in the cast, and see if like right now, like Soma Blair, she can't. I believe she is MS, I think.
MS, yeah.
So like she can't act, like, because I mean, just physically it is debilitating. But if she could voice the character,
Yep.
you know, like just bring that universe to an animated property. And holy
they
shit, Netflix, you're gonna get subscribers.
They dumped Ron Perlman because he's in his 60s now for David Harbour. It's like, well, he can voice the character,
Yeah.
you know? Craig
Go
T.
nuts.
Nelson did Mr. Incredible, and he's like in his late 70s, you know?
Yeah, like who cares? All we want to do is see that Hellboy universe again. I want to see where that story was going.
But
It was fucking awesome.
I'm sure if we pull up the archives, it was one of the first episodes where I told you when we started talking about the streaming wars, all these networks, and Netflix was losing a lot of stuff with Disney.
Because they had that IDW relationship.
They needed to go after Dark Horse properties, and like for them to go after a Goon, all that stuff, Bone, and Hellboy would be really big for them. And that was before the Umbrella Academy blew up for them. But I think that if they brought in and did an animated series, kind of like what HBO did in the 90s with Spawn, I don't know if you remember that. That was huge.
WB's doing now with Harley Quinn. And now Amazon's doing with Invincible. Kind of, it's not quite an arms race, but like you have a niche. Like I brought up on a prior show, like fantasy kind of stuff is a lot of Netflix stuff kind of goes away. Like Witcher, Stranger Things has like that D&D fantasy, like, you know, like eldritch horror type stuff, you know? Hellboy fits that, like, to a T. So come on, make it happen.
Especially if you have the right casting for Abe Sapien, you know, little things like that. It would be, I think
it is Doug Jones, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Doug Jones. Yeah,
like, it's Doug Jones. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
His voice is great. Even, I mean, his physical acting is amazing. Like, how many different creatures has the man been? But, like, his voice is part of the character too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Netflix needs to go after Hellboy, make it an animated series. You can bring back those guys, and it would be great.
Yeah.
Del Toro could just be an EP on that bad boy. He doesn't have to direct, you know. And yeah, you're right. Selma Blair, bring it back. There goes your third. You could do your third Hellboy movie properly,
which they said they wanted to do, and they just never got the funding for it. And it's like, we'll do it as an animated property, and it would still be awesome. Like, I'd watch that.
I mean, well, shit. What was it? Who was I reading about today that they actually paid $450 million for a season of a show?
Amazon, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
But I think that may have been like their big budget Excel, including marketing, like future planned expenses.
Okay.
Type thing. I don't know if that was an actual production budget.
Okay.
Which, of course, is vastly different. But still, if it's 10 episodes, I mean, that's $40 million an episode. That's insanity. Game of Thrones tapped out at like 10.
No, Game of Thrones. I think the last season, wasn't it like $100 million an episode?
An episode?
I think so. Was I? I could have sworn it was something ridiculous. Like they said that that may have been the total budget with marketing, but I could have sworn they said the final season of
15 million each,
15
according to Variety.
Okay, then I'm fucking way off. Holy shit, was I way off?
I think it may have been 100 for the whole season.
Okay. Well, there were only 6 episodes.
Which, let me say, we could have used an extra 15 million on the Night King scene, the 4th episode, the long night. Could have used a little extra money because that looked like dog shit.
God. Look, man, I can't help it that some of us calibrated our fucking TVs. That's on you guys.
I was watching on a nice TV. I couldn't see shit because HBO's bandwidth, which you as the director need to understand, people are going to be watching on cable and on fucking networks. Yeah. Bandwidth compressed the fuck out of it. You couldn't see shit. Fuck.
Look, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna agree with you here. Hellboy is one that can become an awesome animated show for a streaming network, and if it's not Netflix, then who the hell does it? Who hell? It has to. It just makes sense for
Yeah,
Netflix
it
to
just
do that.
sounds right. Like you just see it and like, yeah,
Feel right.
that's gonna be on Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, that's our take on Invincible. I'm looking forward to it. I did look it up. It is 8 episodes, not a longer season like I thought.
Okay,
But they are
okay.
doing, traditional animation, but on like a network television, type scale of 42 minutes. That's a
Okay.
lot. Like that's
That
a
is a lot.
lot of animation. Even if they're doing, using some cut arounds, having just 2 people talking in a room cheapens things up, but it
Sure.
still feels fantastic. Like it still
Yeah.
feels like a damn fun show. Despite any hiccups like that. So moving on to our next one, which is hopefully going to be the title of the episode. See how I'm feeling as I'm editing. And that is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We
All
are up
right.
through episode 5, which dropped, of course, today as we're recording. I'll take this one first.
Okay.
I have a problem with the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Go for it.
All right, and this is the problem with it for me. It's a good show trapped with a terrible release plan.
Okay.
I think I felt this right away, and I know you felt it too, at least of the first couple episodes. Episode 1 feels like part 1 of episode 2.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's not always a good thing. Like, you
Nope.
want your series, especially if it's just a one season or one season series, or mini series, a la like a Watchmen. Of course, you want each to lead into the next, and you want them to all feel like a part of the greater whole. But you don't want to feel like you can't have, like the links between them are so weak that like they aren't elevating each other. And like episode 1 and 2 should have all maybe even don't even cut. Like just run it straight through.
Okay.
Stuff like that's what I mean. Like it felt better back to back than it did separate by a week. And that's not a bad thing to have a show that's designed that way or edited that way. Because I guess behind the scenes there's like a whole subplot that they had to cut out about a virus or something.
Yeah.
So like I understand that editing salvage wise, like maybe it wasn't supposed to end the way it did. But once it was edited and you saw it, I think the season should have come out as 2 3-parters. I think if you consume this show, and of course we haven't seen the finale yet to see if it sticks the landing. If you consumed this show 2 episodes a time, a week at a time, so you'd go episodes 1 and 2, wait a week, 3 and 4, wait a week, 5 and 6. I think there's a way, like, the buzz about it is better. You feel better about it. There's no down week. Like, episode 1, 3, and 5, we've all been like, well, it kind of ends in a weird spot. And not in like I want to see where they're going way like Watchmen did. It's more of a, like, my face is liking a really, this is where we're at face.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how I feel at the end of it. Great highs. Like, the fight this week between Falcon, Winter Soldier, and,
John
not
Walker.
Captain America. Like, Mr. I am Captain America. Like, that fight was fan-fucking-tastic. Bucky staring down Zemo at the Sokovia Memorial and dropping the bullets. Yeah. Fucking killer emotional ending to his arc there. Awesome. Sure. But those bits by themselves don't make an amazing episode. Especially because the end is so just like, oh, well, we're really not, like, there maybe should have been a cliffhanger, but it's really not a cliffhanger. It's weird. Yeah. And I have a feeling next week's going to pick up and you're like, oh, I get it now. But if you'd watched them back to back, it'd have been better. And that, for me, is the problem with the show, is that Disney, you own the entire network pipeline. You own it all. You don't have to do weekly. You could have done all at once. WandaVision, you put out 2 episodes back to back first week, right? And WandaVision was a show that was designed to leave your jaw on the floor at the end of every episode. Yeah. Winter Soldier clearly is not, because only half the episodes are doing that. So if you'd have packaged them differently, I think my feeling, and I know some of the feelings of people that I'm familiar with, like in a couple Discord servers, I think that buzz around it would be a little better too. Critically, because like you'd be left every week with an amazing moment. Like week 1 would have been, we got to bust out Zemo, the guy that beat the Avengers. Week 2, oh, new Captain America just decapitated a dude with the shield on camera. And then episode 6, of course, is going to be the finale, which will hopefully have a an awesome conclusion and some great moments at the end. I think it just would have been better for me. Like, it's not bad. I would actually say it's good. I would say it's analogous to like The Witcher season 1, but The Witcher we got
Okay.
all at once, so we got to see all the ups and downs because that's a show that has a lot of ups and downs. You don't
Yep.
know where the fuck they're going for half of it because of all the timeline craziness, and then it all comes together at the end. But it's made better because you could binge it. Not every show that you binge is like that. Some shows you want the weekly release. You know, you look at WandaVision. The weekly release was awesome because it got us around the water cooler talking. Of course, Watchmen, the gold standard of miniseries for superhero content, it was weekly, and it was amazing. This show kind of feels like it kind of should be halfway in the middle, like a hybrid binge, like 2 at a time, space it out, and it'd be a way better experience.
Okay. For me, is it good? It's a good show. I enjoy it, but is it? There's a lot that I have to argue with, and I get your idea, and I like your suggestion, breaking it up into two episode arcs. For me, when I really think about this, I think the biggest problem is obviously this subplot about the virus that they removed out because of the coronavirus really affected the pace of the show. I think there is a lot more that we were missing with the pace of the show. Um, it does feel disconjointed at times. For me, though, I think the biggest thing is this was a mini series that should not have been 6 episodes. This is one that probably should have been 10 to 11 episodes. That there should have been a lot more going on, just because it feels like the pacing with okay, we got to break out Zemo. Okay, let's do it. Boom, 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 and then Zemo just kind of runs around with you for kind of aimlessly for a couple episodes, and then he's off. He's up and disappears, and then okay, now he's back at Sokovia. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and dump him. So I'm gonna tell you right now, it's just what interests me is the freaking flyer miles that these guys are jacking up. Like that Sam and Bucky are all over the world. I mean, 1 minute within the same episode, Bucky was it Germany? Where was it where they had the bombing? I
They
forget.
were the big fight
France?
there in season 4 was Eastern Europe, so like Turkey kind of
Okay,
analogy.
they're near the Eastern Bloc, the old
Yeah,
Eastern Bloc.
yeah,
Okay. So they're there, and then Bucky very shortly after that is in Sokovia, and then he's New Orleans,
yeah,
Louisiana, and then all of a sudden we know that these guys are going to end up heading to New York at the end of the episode. These guys are traveling around like crazy, and
yeah.
I don't see a Quinjet, so I mean, you would think that has to be these guys have easy access to Quinjets, right? Because they're flying everywhere pretty easily. They're not just jumping on commercial flights.
Exactly.
But
And like another one, like Carly's International Fugitive, she got to fucking New York
New York, like
in a park.
yeah, in
The
broad
fuck?
daylight. Yeah,
Right? Like that one feels like that was a shot that existed because of the virus subplot. And like there was a whole bit there where maybe we missed how she got to America from Europe, because you have to imagine she's number 1 on the wanted list,
of course.
and she's in broad daylight.
And well, we have Shield, we have Sword, we have the FBI, CIA that have facial recognition software, that have advanced
Well, I
technology.
don't know about Shield anymore, but
it's true. We have these watchdog groups that have advanced technology in the MCU realm, that have drones out there.
yeah.
Like it shouldn't be that easy for her to get on a plane or a boat and just show up in New York. It should be a lot harder than that. I think this show really could have gone with having 10 episodes. It would have been able to space out the relationship building between Bucky and Sam. I think that happened way too fast. Like these guys are just, they were basically apart for the first half of the entire series, right? For the majority
up
of it,
until
they
the
were
end of
doing
episode 2.
to episode 2, but then all of a sudden they're back together. They do a quick mission, and then they're kind of off doing their own thing again. But then they're back together again, and then they're kind of stuck with each other going forward with Zemo. Okay, but and then through the whole process they hate each other. They are they're not on the same page, and then all of a sudden here we are in episode 5 where Bucky feels bad, so then they become besties fixing this fucking boat, right? I think that should have been a much longer process, a much bigger build. We could have gone into more of the whole psychological trauma that Bucky is working through, and Sam can help him, because hey, that's what Sam did before he got into this whole superhero business. And I think that they just kind of just threw it in there really fast, like, hey guys, I used to do this for a living, so let's talk, and it just feels like there. Maybe because of the coronavirus, I don't know, but it's maybe just similar to WandaVision. there is a lot left on the table. That's what I really feel like. There's a lot left, and maybe the subplot had a lot to do with that. The virus subplot has a lot to do with that character relationship
Yeah.
building and a lot of the character building that we're missing out on because it had to be sacrificed to keep the story in a good motion because of what was filmed around the virus. I don't know. I
And if
don't
it
know.
was that integral and they've been able to edit around it, kudos to the editors. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, that's a masterpiece of editing.
Well, this is 2 for 2 now, Wartburg, with WandaVision, the finale, the last
They
2
had to
episodes
edit around the pandemic, yeah.
had it completely around the pandemic, so the battle scene and the subplots and all that had to change, and could have made it better? Yeah, I think so, but at the same time, it didn't completely ruin the
Yeah.
show, and it doesn't feel like it's ruined the show. It just, to me, like, I've watched enough superhero and read enough comic book content to know, like, it just feels like there was something missing, and
Yeah.
and
Like it, it,
talking
it,
you
it like
through
it
now.
lowered their vertical,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly,
Like
exactly.
and that's not a terrible thing. Like they still got up there. They
No,
didn't
yeah,
get up there though. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
And I think maybe we'll come to find that maybe they'll do a director's version of this one day that has the subplot. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think Disney
Yeah,
would
I
do
don't think
that.
Disney's gonna go down that road.
Yeah, but I think that's probably that may be talking this through out loud now. I really think that's probably what it is. It's probably that what I feel like I'm missing is tied to that virus subplot that was supposed to go
Yeah.
in the back. The subplot of the entire season. That's probably what I'm missing there because it probably involves maybe some more Don Cheadle. Maybe some of
Yeah.
that a little bit more with Sharon Carter because whether we find out on in the finale that she is the power broker, it looks like they're teasing that in episode 5 that she could be the
Mhm.
power broker after all. I think that's a misdirect. Honestly, I
Yeah,
think that's
same here.
misdirect.
They wouldn't show that at the end of episode 5 if she
Yeah,
really was.
yeah,
That'd be
and
saved for
so
the finale.
for me, I think maybe there was a lot left on the cutting room floor because of the virus subplot that involves character development, and it took a little bit away from me. I'm not going to say it's awful, but I'm going to say like I feel at this point in my gut that Loki's going to kick so much fucking ass that we're all going to love Loki.
Yeah.
We're going to look back and say, okay, of the three, it's probably Loki, WandaVision, and then
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier of the 3 series. It sucks because I'm really hoping that this thing is good. I will say this though, the other problem I had was the very first episode. It really felt like they were going in a very socially aware slash whatever if you want to call it woke direction with talking about black superheroes, right? And the
Mhm.
struggle of in a society that is used to white superheroes. They kind of leaned towards that a little bit in the first episode, and then it just completely went away, right?
Yeah,
And then
it
you
was
find,
actually the first half of episode 2 where Bucky was like, "You give up the shield, take
yeah,
him
yeah,
to Isaiah." Or maybe it was
yeah.
episode 3. I can't
No, that
remember.
was 3, I
But it was
think. I
after they
think that
come
was 3.
together after Sam gives up the shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that was before that though, it was the question of what was going on through Sam's mind, right? And we really don't know. And so Bucky kind of addresses it, but then it just gets brushed off. I really like how they handled the Isaiah Bradley subplot because I think it's really important to talk about this, and then I felt like that kind of just disappeared. Okay, and I'm okay with that because we're going in a different direction with the terrorists. But then in episode 5, they circle back and they hit hard when they talk
Oh
about
yeah.
that. It really I'm not gonna lie to you, I got emotional watching it because, first thing, Anthony Mackie was fucking brilliant in episode 5. He was amazing, but then also you could see Sebastian Stan, his his, uh, his Broadway chops, like, just like how they really pull you in from their acting ability in
Yeah,
this
and
episode.
Carl
Really,
Lumley as Isaiah Bradley.
oh, man, you just feel really
His
like
voice when he does like sad anger, fuck. So
where
good.
else I'm trying to think, where else do I know like,
He
what other
voiced
movie
I want to say he voiced Martian Manhunter
did
in
he?
Justice League.
Okay.
Not the movie, the OG Bruce
No,
Timm.
he was a grizzly
And he was a
old.
Martian on Supergirl
Okay,
because of the nod to the fact that he was Martian Manhunter.
sure. I think there was another movie where he was a grizzly old man, and he was really good at this whole life just kinda sucks, dialogue. I can't remember what he was in. It was a live action thing now, I have to think back, but, I thought this was a great episode in overall because we come back to that plot and just talking about how the world will never accept a black Captain America, and I'm like, "Wow, shit. Like, this is real. Like, this is"
Yeah.
because as a fan of the comics, I remember some years back, and it was maybe not even a decade ago, when Sam Wilson temporarily took over the Captain America moniker from Steve Rogers. There was a lot of people don't know this, but there was a lot of backlash because of that. I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah,
lie, there
there
was
was
a
a
lot of backlash.
lot.
We had just gotten a female Thor. Jane Foster had become the new Thor, and they announced that we were going to have a black Captain America. And when the announcement was made, there was a backlash. And then when you find out, oh, it's not just some random person; it's the Falcon. He's going to take over the role. Like because you see the artwork that was released for the new Avengers issue, and it's the Falcon in his suit, but it's a modified Captain America suit with the shield. And like still there were a lot of people like, okay, that's not bad, but there was quite a few people out there that were still backlashing Marvel, saying like, we don't need a black Captain America. It just, I can see why people are scared to kind of talk about that, even in this day and age. For them, it's what, 2025, I think it's still, is that
Yeah,
the
it's
year that
it's like 2023, 2024. Like,
yeah.
it's a little past where we are.
Yeah.
Because they kind of slowed down while we moved on, and then they were like, fuck it, 5 years went by. Plus 6 months.
Yeah. So in this day and age, it's still it's tough it's a tough pill to swallow that there are a lot of people out there that would have a problem with a black Captain America. And like when Isaiah Bradley tells you that, you know that he's not just telling Sam like to him, he's telling the world like that's watching this episode, like the world isn't ready, and you're just like, fuck man, like this hits you right in the feels,
Yeah.
And so I thought Anthony Mackie was brilliant in this episode. I think that's probably with the virus, that's probably where some of that subplot was tied into. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe whether we probably got a little bit more Isaiah Bradley. I don't know. But yeah, I like the show, but I really wish I knew what was going on that was pulled out, because I think I would like it a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm curious if they ever will do a like full comic book run of this, like what they've done with the Star Wars properties that got turned into comic books.
Sure.
Like I think Gary Whitta did the comic book of Last Jedi. I think, like something like that. I could really see that for something like this.
Rather than a director's cut of the actual show.
And you can sell it to the hardcores.
Yeah.
And also maybe make something cool. So I could see something like that happening, and I'd check that out. So yeah, but while we've talked some negatives here, I'm still enjoying the show. Like I said, the fight scenes, amazing. Wyatt Russell, he is no longer underrated. He is awesome. Like, cast him in more shit, people. I first saw him in Overlord a few years ago, that Nazi zombie movie. Oh, he kicked ass in that movie. He was awesome. He's the best part of the movie. And now he's one of the best parts of the show. Like, the rise and fall of John Walker, he has sold it every bit of the way. He's awesome. I can't wait to see how crazy he gets in the finale, because he looks like he's gone completely off the end. And I can't wait to see how crazy he gets, because his dad could do crazy real well.
Are we going to get like a psychopathic USA agent uniform? In the
like
episode? It looks like it,
because he's kind of a psychotic dick. Like, he's basically Captain America's like Nuke. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
He's not mentally all there because he's been broken. Not so much by the serum, but by life. Like, it's just fucked him up. So I'm curious where he goes with that, because he's been awesome, and he's not like a huge comic book guy, but he's been game about the whole, like, yeah, I'm taking over for Chris Evans. Hope you don't hate me, but now I hope you do hate me, because it means I did my job. Like, he's getting into it, which I like. So I'm liking that part. Of course, Falcon, like his whole subplot with his family, and like him coming to terms with, yeah, I was gone for 5 years and they moved on. Like, when I left, my nephews were like in diapers. Like, that's a trip. Sebastian Stan is still awesome. Like, his Bucky is criminally underutilized in the MCU.
I agree.
He should have been in a lot more stuff.
Oh yeah,
should be. Seriously, Disney, you haven't asked him to be Luke. He said, "I'm waiting to be asked." You haven't asked Sebastian Stan to be young Luke fucking Skywalker. Are you fucking idiots?
Wait. He can't be. He's in his late 30s. He can't be young. He can be.
He could have been post Return of the Jedi. Like, that's what I mean. He could have just been post Return of the fucking Jedi, Luke Skywalker, and you haven't even asked.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy town.
Well, how crazy would it have been if in the season finale of The Mandalorian, it is Luke Skywalker that shows up, but it's Sebastian
That
Stan?
would have kicked so much ass.
but like people would have gotten the reference, right? Like
Yeah, and he legitimately does look like a young Mark Hamill. Like, it's
he does.
not fan casting. He really does.
Yeah, he does.
Like, I mean, it is kind of fan casting, but also he's a great actor, and he looks the part. And he clearly is like, hey, if Mark said I could do it, I'd do it. Like, and Mark Hamill's been like, well, yeah, if Disney wants him to do it, do it. And they haven't asked. Blows my mind.
I think, and here's the thing: I think we're going to get another season of Falcon and Winter Soldier, regardless of whoever becomes Cap. I think so.
I don't know. Like, they said, what did they say about which one wasn't? This was more a conversation around WandaVision.
Okay.
But I remember them saying they're not all going to get one, of course. Like, She-Hulk probably will, because they don't think, because of the whole theatrical, like, can she be in movies? Because of the whole Universal deal? She'll probably be a more running show. Yeah. I would imagine Kamala Khan's show. Is that Miss Marvel? They're just calling it Marvel.
No, they're calling it Miss Marvel.
Yeah. I imagine she'll get an extra run.
Okay.
I don't know about Echo. And, like, because that's a series, right? Or she's just going to be a character?
No, she's going to be a character introduced in
Hawkeye. And then she's getting a show?
Her own series. Yeah, she's getting her own series, and apparently she's going to be the love interest of Daredevil, Charlie Cox. So we're getting Charlie Cox later this year in December with Spider-Man.
So excited.
We have Charlie Cox. We have Daredevil back in the MCU. And then he's going to be a centerpiece character for her in her Echo show, which probably won't debut for another 2 years, based off production schedules. But then that reintroduces the fact that apparently everybody in the Daredevil cast is like, I want to come back. Vincent D'Onofrio, all these guys are like, I want to come back.
Yeah. When you're a part of something that's that perfect. Like, when I say, like, Watchmen's the pinnacle of, miniseries, Daredevil is the pinnacle of, like, serialized, like, over multiple seasons. Yeah. What you can do in a short run, like 3 to 5 seasons, and not go crazy like fucking Smallville at 10, Like, what you can do with a comic book arc in short season arcs over, like, 3 or 4 years is amazing. And the Daredevil cast is all fantastic. I can't wait to see how many of them are actually able to make the jump over to the Disney properties. It's gonna be so cool.
But if we're gonna get, if we're gonna get the Daredevil team back together before we have another Daredevil season, we're gonna have to see D'Onofrio's Fisk at some point, right? It's one of these shows.
One of the theories was him being Power Broker, and I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. But like, what if it's Samuel Stearns? That'd be dope.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Because he's experimented with powered stuff before, Bruce's blood, the Abomination, etc. And he's kind of psychotic, so like him losing his shit over the serum being gone, not out of the realm of possibility. But again, I don't know how much, how far they want to toe the line with Universal. I don't know what's behind the scenes they've done any conversations with, because Universal's not Sony. Maybe they've kept that all under wraps. Who knows? Because it's
I don't know, because you're talking about. I mean, they're saying the Abomination is going to be
exactly like he's going to be in a property. So like. Clearly something's been worked out, but we don't know what it is. So maybe Universal is just like, no, we don't need to tell people. Our emails don't get hacked. We're good. So maybe they're just a little tighter-lipped about it, which kind of makes things more fascinating, because then we can have all these conversations.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's just so much to talk about, because there's so much. We have three good shows that are.
And I haven't talked about the fact that they're clearly setting up Young Avengers. Like,
obviously,
Eli Bradley's now. We've seen him 3 times now.
Yep.
So he's going to get a blood transfusion from Isaiah. That's happening. Yep. We know young Hawkeye's happening. The next generation. We know Echo's going to be young, like 1920. We know there's a young, like, Ant-Man's daughter is now like 18-ish. So like she's maybe going to be their tech person. Who knows? Kamala Khan has her own show. Like they're clearly building out that roster. Plus Wanda's kids eventually, if they ever show back up. I can't wait to see where they go with that. Like, there's so many cool subplots with what they're doing, and they're no longer being like, hey, put the leash on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, you don't get to do that. We're never going to talk about you, but you can't do these things. We're not, like, they're not WBing it anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're no longer saying you don't get Batman. You have to follow these certain rules. It's all in-house, and it's all on the table, which I fucking love.
The Young Avengers could be a good movie on the Disney Plus. Like, they could do a series of movies Like they have
Exactly.
all these shows for these characters, but then in between the seasons of these shows, they have the films for these characters as
That'd be
well, like
amazing.
ensemble movie. Yeah,
There's so many
I love.
possibilities.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's where I was getting to circle back
yeah,
to my point about the different release cycle for
sure,
Falcon Winter Soldier. Fucking experiment. Get wild. Go fucking
yeah.
crazy with this shit. Like, put like a whole, like, do 6 episodes and then a month later there's a movie. Like, you know, go fucking crazy. We don't, it doesn't have to
Why not?
follow a,
Yeah.
you know, X number of episodes for X number of weeks. Get nuts. I
Yeah,
want
the
to see
studio
some crazy
execs-
shit.
The studio execs needed like unbutton the collar and take off the tie and just say fuck it. You know, let's like we don't have those constraints
Yeah,
anymore. It's not
like,
traditional broadcasting.
another one, like, to pull on WB, they pulled out 2 seasons of Harley Quinn in like 6 months.
Yeah.
It was back to fucking back. It was crazy. Everyone was on it. Big buzz. Oh yeah, we have more episodes in a month. Like, what the fuck? Like, that was insane. Do shit like that. I want to see some crazy shit happens now that we've really opened up the floodgates for superheroes in all mediums.
And I'm calling it, man. The Moon Knight's going to be the big one. That's going to be the sleeper show, man, because apparently they're going fucking gory with this show.
They
It should be
should.
a detective style Moon Knight, which is traditionally the better comic of Moon Knight, but it's supposed to be pretty damn gory too. So I'm all for this show. Like I think it's going to be the sleeper show on Disney Plus. Watch the next season.
Oh, and speaking of Marvel stuff, did you see that Gabriel Luna got cast in the HBO show? Gabriel Luna, of course,
No.
being Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who should have got a series. Fuck you, Disney. Sorry, I just, gave you all the praises, but fuck you for not making a Ghost Rider show.
Oh.
He's now cast as Joel's brother in The Last of Us. So he's going to be a fairly younger brother to Pedro Pascal, but, like, I see it. Like, yeah, I think that could work.
No, that's a good cast. I mean, it's a good cast to start with. That's not bad, but it's just we're not going to get our Ghost Rider show. We're not going to get it. We're just not going to get it.
He was so good. Like, the effects had nothing to do with him, but like just him talking, like just him acting with everybody, like opposite Chloe Bennett, and like he just rocked that he was Ghost Rider, and it was awesome. Loved it.
Well,
Plus, that car was fucking
that
dope.
Gabriel Luna really loved being the character. Like he went out there to the conventions and promoted it. Like he was out there talking about how he loved being cast as the character.
I was so sad we didn't get him for the final season.
Yeah,
God, that was like fan favorite characters. Final season. You're doing a time travel show. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Sometimes it's okay to give people fan service. Sometimes it's okay, as long as you don't fuck it up. It's okay. But that's a topic for a later day.
Sure.
So we've got some stuff coming out that we're going to be talking about. A little preview stuff for our next episode, which will be in 2 weeks ish. That, of course, this week. I think this weekend we're both watching Nobody now that it's on VOD.
Yes.
I think it's on Amazon and a couple different places, so I'll be renting it there. So we're gonna both watch that. We'll give you our thoughts on Nobody. Next Friday is Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
On HBO Max. I'm gonna pop her on the 4K and just have a blast. I'm trying to think, should we get a guest for next week?
We might want to bring someone in for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to hit you up. We'll talk shop after this, but who we want to get as a guest. And then, of course, we had a bunch of trailers drop.
Yes.
I want to talk about the Loki one a little bit because holy shit, that had to have been Black Widow. That was in one of those shots, right? Had to have been.
In Vormir. No,
like,
was it Vormir?
Yeah, it looked like Vormir, and it was like her, the red hair, her. I was like, that looks like Avengers era Natasha. What the fuck is happening in this show? And I'm so excited. We got a new Black Widow trailer. We saw more of Taskmaster, which was really cool.
Yep.
We got the new Space Jam trailer, which I don't know if I'm gonna watch it, but like, it looks like what I expected a 2021 Space Jam to look like. And LeBron is a way better actor than Jordan ever was, so I'm sure it'll at least be mildly heartwarming because LeBron's like a legitimately funny dude. So hopefully there'll be some good, kind of like heartwarming stuff in there, and at least have some laughs. Plus Don Cheadle's in it, so like he's an evil AI, so you're gonna get some decent jokes. And Bill Murray better have a stealth cameo.
He's gonna have a cameo. We
know Bill Murray's gonna be like on a golf course somewhere, like, and see the Looney Tunes, and be like, "Oh, not again!" and just run away. Like something like that needs to happen because he's Bill Murray. And then, of course, new Fast 9 trailer. Everybody freaking out because hashtag justice for Han. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with that subplot. Apparently, they're maybe going to space. I have no idea. Which everyone joked about back in like Fast 6, but now might actually happen. And I kind of want to see it in a non-ironic way. I want to see what they do. Because they fucking, like that scene where they jump out of the planes in Fast 8 with the car. They fucking did that. Like, they've taken their cinematography, like their stunt choreography with the cars to an insane fucking level. And not all digital. Like, they're doing some crazy practical effects with these cars. So I kind of want to see what they do for Fast 9. Or maybe it was Fast 7 with the jumping out of the C-130. I think it was Fast 7 with the C-130.
I'm so lost.
They jump into a mountain pass, so that way they can't be seen on the guy's radar. They jump from altitude and they parachute the cars in, and it's fucking stellar. So cool. But anyway, that's enough about Fast and Furious. Speaking of movies that don't take themselves seriously, like we talked about with Godzilla vs. Kong. Definitely that kind of movie. Yes, any closing thoughts, Fusion?
Loki. Super excited. I think we realized it's going to be a time heist, so to speak, where he's fixing the timeline, kind of like Quantum Leap, I guess. But it's going to answer. I think it's going to answer quite a few questions leading up into Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man, like this whole thing with the multiverse, because the TVA obviously didn't get involved in Endgame, and we get to find out why they didn't get involved. But they, at the same time, they know that Endgame fucked up the timeline, and we got not necessarily Endgame, but what Loki did by stealing the Tesseract fucked up the timeline, which does make sense. But then also you have to ask yourself, is it just that, or does Cap's ending to the movie fuck up the timeline by going back and staying with Loki? Like, is that an alternate timeline? Because that technically is. Did he come back, jump in just like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did in the final episode? Did he jump back into the proper timeline, the 19999 timeline? Or, like, there's a question there. And I think we're probably going to get some of those things answered in the TVA, with the TVA in the Loki series regarding the entire MCU. And I'm hoping for that, because we still have quite a few questions about the timeline and stuff going forward into Spider-Man, the No Way Home here in December. Yeah. I'm excited about that. Black Widow, yes. Really enjoyed the trailer. I think this is going to be a good. This is the thing, though, man. Real quick, this technically should be Scarlett Johansson's swan song, but I'm starting to read around that this isn't it for her, because they're talking about how Marvel and Disney are going to separate Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson because of their past marriage / divorce. You know, in real life, they're going to make sure that these two aren't involved in projects, Marvel MCU projects going forward. And so my thought is, shouldn't she be done after this one then? Unless there's something we don't know about, like, unless there's a return we don't know about with through Loki, like he fixes something, is able to, bring her back to life or something of that nature,
or pull a younger version out or something.
Or a longer, like just. Are we just going to get prequel movies from her at this point, based in different chapters of her life? But I'm very interested about that. Like you said in the trailer, the Loki trailer, that does look like Black Widow on Vormir, right before or after she died, somewhere around there. Something about, that's what it looks like. The backdrop looks like that. So a lot of questions from that trailer. Space Jam. I wasn't a fan of I love Michael Jordan as an athlete, greatest basketball player ever. Thought the movie was trash.
I would quibble with that, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, we could go around that one for days, man.
Yeah, really good.
Space Jam was okay. Thought this one was okay. Sure, it's gonna be for the kids. Great, something for the kids to enjoy.
That's fine.
Fast 9 never got. I mean, I was never a big fan of this universe, the Fast universe. I get why it's there. It's good, dumb fun, like Godzilla. Like you said, there are some scenes that catch your eye. Like apparently in this one, we get a Tarzan swing from a fucking car, a muscle car. So who knows, man? I don't know. Yeah, we get a Tarzan swing from a fucking muscle car. And like Dom apparently fucking grabs a vine, shoots a rope, grabs a vine, and swings across a fucking mountain with a fucking GTO, like in a GTO. So I don't know, man.
That sounds absurdly amazing. Like.
I mean,
that sounds like Fast and Furious.
You love the Kong just popped his shoulder back in place with the
like just fuck it, shoulder skyscraper, bam, shoulders back in, grab axe, go kick ass. Like I love that shit.
I mean, it may be a good movie. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea, but hey, it's for people for other folks out there. John Cena's starting to look his age. Let's be real. He's looking like he's looking like a man in his mid-40s now.
This had to have been done. Was this done before Suicide Squad?
Before, yeah.
Yeah, because like he looks older in this. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if he like, because was there a time where he just wasn't as big?
Yeah. So about 2.5 years ago, he lost like 30 pounds. He went down to almost 200
like that's when
pounds.
this looks like this was filmed.
Yeah.
Because I know
then
it got pushed. It should have been out a year ago.
Yeah, it should have been out because they had the trailer saying, "Hey, it's coming out."
It was ready to release last April. I thought
we were like 2 months away from it being released, and they're like, they just announced, "Yeah, we're shutting it down." And then they're like, they didn't give a date. They're like, "It's just going to 2021. We just don't know when yet."
Yeah.
But yeah, he had really trimmed down at one point because he was like 250, 260 pounds.
Yeah.
He had trimmed down to like damn near like 210, and he got really lean. And I think this movie was there, but he jacked himself back up for Suicide Squad. Yeah.
He's huge in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
He just looks with the white polo and the helmet. Just perfect.
Well, and you know that we're getting we might be getting a HBO Max series with.
Yeah, I hope that Peacemaker season happens. Like, and news today about those series. The HBO series is refocusing to focus on Jeffrey Wright and Jim Gordon, which is the better focus because that's cheaper and hopefully better.
Yeah,
because Jeffrey Wright's amazing.
But Fast 9. Hey, if people love that whole universe, great. I'm not going to argue with that stuff. I mean,
yeah,
you know how I roll, Warburg. It's for me. It's like there's something out there for everybody. But if you're going to go on social media, go, oh God, I don't want to hear about wrestling, or oh God, I don't want to hear about. You don't have to pronounce to the world that you don't want to hear about it. Just mute it and just move on. I think it's stupid when people say shit like that.
You say that on a podcast where I said the problem with Winter Soldier is like but that's more of a quibble on like actual. Like production side, not content.
Yeah, no. What I'm talking about is if it's something that's not in your wheelhouse.
I know where you're going.
You're not going to shout the mountaintops. I hate this while you all love it. So it's like,
you don't need to be a contrarian dick.
Just if it's not for you.
Speaking of stuff that is your cup of tea, though, I wanted to drop a couple recommendations.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you've stayed up on the one show. I don't know if you've ever watched the other one. Okay. The one that it's now free on CW Seed, meaning you don't have to deal with the fucking IMDb, Amazon crap. It's just free on the CW Seed app, which for older CW stuff, they've actually got some decent old WB era and now early CW era shows. Nikita. If you've ever wanted a Mission Impossible series, that's the show.
It
was Maggie
Nikita
Q.
Or La Femme Nikita.
It's based on that original story, though. The French, I think it was a French film. Yes. But it's modified to be more of like a spy-fi Mission Impossible set in America stuff.
Okay, so is it tied into the old USA show from the late 90s?
Not at all.
Okay.
It was something she did. So it was like Mission Impossible 3. Then she did like some not so great movies. And then she did this, and it was fucking awesome.
Okay, Nikita.
Like the action's amazing. She did all her own stunts. I remember she like broke her wrist a few times doing it. And it's got just awesome like nerd humor. It's kind of like a darker Chuck. But if like Chuck was specifically about the spy action,
okay,
and actually had better fight choreography, like an actual like what Mission Impossible was doing at that time, like Mission Impossible 3 and 4, it's very that tone, and I fucking loved it, and it's free. Speaking of other stuff, just to whet your appetite for Loki, if you want a show that can get you in the frame of mind for like the why the fuck not of it all, like a show that personifies, well, let's just do it because we fucking can, while also being good. Legends of Tomorrow, also a CW show. Time travel show, superheroes, superpowers, and just absolutely absurd premises, but with characters you love. Like Brandon Routh's Ray Palmer. If like the guy is like a human teddy bear. He's awesome. And he's hilarious.
It's hard to believe he was the milquetoast Superman.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Like, well, that was more on the why WB wanted to just make Superman the movie again. Like, Brandon Routh's a better actor than that.
Yeah.
Way better. Like, he's awesome as the Atom. Like, and he was awesome in Chuck that I just mentioned. He was an amazing villain.
That was a Bryan Singer disaster, too.
Yeah, it was. It was a whole shit show. Like, another movie that wasted James Marsden. Like, fuck! The guy cannot catch a break, especially with superhero stuff. But before we get down that tangent, which would take us for forever, we're at about an hour 10, which is our usual average. So I want to say thank you for everyone that has made it this far. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on any of the audio services, thank you for checking us out. If you're not subscribed, by all means, please do so. You can follow us on our socials where we banter in between recordings. I'm at MrWartburg on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else. And Fusion is at It's Mr. Fusion, at least on Twitter. Are you on anywhere else?
Instagram as well. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram.
Yep.
That's about it.
Yeah, so that's our show for this week. That's episode 14 in the books. We'll be back here towards the end of April, assuming vaccine dose number 2 doesn't kick my ass next weekend and knock me out for a week. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll be talking Nobody, Mortal Kombat. We'll see if there's any new trailers to dissect, and maybe I'll be talking about actually getting around to my video game topic because I totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Love you. Bye.